The sky turned dark over New York City on a sunny Tuesday morning. Giant shadows fell across the buildings. People stopped and looked up. 7 massive ships hung in the air, each one bigger than the largest aircraft carrier ever built. All across Earth, the same scene played out. London, Beijing, Cairo, Sydney. The unknown visitors had arrived without warning. World leaders scrambled to respond. The military went on high alert. News channels showed nothing else. 3 hours after they appeared, the alien ships sent a message to all radio frequencies and digital networks on Earth. "We are the Valkyrian Empire," the message said. "We claim this solar system as our territory. Prepare to receive our representatives." Commander John Harris of the United States Space Force stood on the newly built landing pad at the United Nations headquarters. Next to him were 5 other military officers and 3 diplomats. They were chosen to meet the aliens first. "Stay calm, everyone," John said. "Remember your training." A small craft left one of the giant ships and descended toward them. It made no sound as it landed, its silver hull gleaming in the sunlight. A door opened, and 3 tall figures stepped out. They had pale blue skin, 4 arms, and wore black armor that seemed to absorb light. They walked with perfect posture, their faces showing no emotion. "I am High Executor Zarbex of the Valkyrian Empire," the tallest one said in perfect English. "We have studied your languages. We know your cultures. We know your weaknesses." John stepped forward. "I am Commander Harris. We welcome you to Earth and hope for peaceful relations between our peoples." Zarbex made a sound like laughter, but there was no joy in it. "Peace? Your species is barely out of its cradle. You have no faster-than-light travel. Your weapons are primitive. What could you possibly offer the Empire?" "Perhaps an exchange of knowledge," suggested Dr. Linda Powell, one of the diplomats. "We have much to learn from each other." The aliens looked at each other and made more of those cold, laughing sounds. "We do not exchange knowledge with servant races," Zarbex said. "Here are our terms. Earth will provide resources and workers to the Empire. In return, we will not destroy your civilization." The humans exchanged worried looks. "We would need to discuss this with our governments," John said carefully. "You have 3 Earth days," Zarbex replied. For the next 3 days, world leaders met nonstop. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to surrender. In the end, they decided to ask for more time to consider the Valkyrians' offer. When John delivered this message, Zarbex's 4 eyes narrowed. "The Empire does not negotiate with servant races," he said. "You need a demonstration of our power." The Valkyrians returned to their ship. 6 hours later, the human colony on the moon, home to 200 scientists and engineers, was destroyed by a beam of light from one of the Valkyrian ships. Lieutenant Kate Mason watched the destruction from Earth's space station. Her brother Sam had been working at the lunar colony. "No," she whispered as the colony dome cracked open, exposing everyone inside to the vacuum of space. Tears floated from her eyes in the zero gravity. After the attack, Earth's response changed. World leaders met again, this time with a different goal: survival. The United Earth Defense Force was created, combining the military might of all nations. Publicly, Earth appeared to accept its role as a new servant world of the Valkyrian Empire. But in secret, plans were made. Resources were hidden. Scientists worked day and night to understand alien technology from scraps the Valkyrians left behind. And Kate Mason, now transferred to UEDF Intelligence, made a promise as she looked at a photo of her brother. "They'll pay for what they did," she said. "All of them." The Valkyrians believed they had won. They thought humans were weak, divided, and afraid. They were wrong. 5 years passed. On the surface, Earth seemed to accept its role in the Valkyrian Empire. Ships came and took Earth's resources. Some humans were sent to work in Valkyrian facilities across the solar system. The aliens walked Earth's cities like they owned them. High Executor Zarbex reported to his superiors that humans were docile and accepting of their place. His reports mentioned small resistance groups, but nothing worth concerning the Empire. Humans were weak, just as they had predicted. But deep beneath the old Cheyenne Mountain complex, Dr. Alan Wright worked with a team of the world's best scientists. They had something the Valkyrians didn't know about. "Pass me that wrench," Alan said to his assistant. They were working on an engine unlike any built before. "Is it true?" the assistant asked. "Can this engine really do what you say?" Alan nodded. "The Valkyrians think we're stupid because we don't have faster-than-light travel, but they made a mistake leaving pieces of their technology where we could find them." In an underwater base off the coast of Japan, Chief Engineer Susan Miller led another secret project. Her team had collected Valkyrian weapons damaged in training accidents. The aliens were careless, thinking humans couldn't possibly understand their advanced technology. "They're wrong," Susan told her team as they successfully tested a reverse-engineered energy weapon. "Their technology follows rules. Different rules than we're used to, but rules all the same. And rules can be learned." Beyond Mars, hidden in the asteroid belt, Admiral Paul Fletcher watched the construction of Earth's first real space fleet. The ships were built from materials mined in secret, transported by shuttles disguised as routine cargo runs. "How many ships now?" Paul asked his second-in-command. 37 combat-ready vessels, sir. Another 15 under construction." Paul nodded. "The Valkyrians have thousands, but they don't know we have any." On Venus, a Valkyrian communication hub received and sent messages across the Empire. Lieutenant Olivia Bennett worked there as a cleaner. The Valkyrians barely noticed her. She was just another human servant beneath their notice. But every night, Olivia placed tiny devices near their communication equipment. These devices, smaller than a fingernail, recorded everything and sent encrypted data back to Earth. "They talk so much," Olivia reported during her rare secure transmissions to UEDF headquarters. "They never think someone might be listening." Kate Mason, now a captain in UEDF intelligence, received Olivia's reports. From these and other sources, the UEDF built a map of Valkyrian strengths and weaknesses throughout the solar system. "Their outpost on Titan is their weakest point," Kate told the UEDF Leadership Council. "Minimal defenses, skeleton crew, but it controls their early warning network for the outer solar system." The council members looked at each other. After 5 years of preparation, the question hung in the air. Were they ready? "Dr. Wright's propulsion system is installed in our lid ships," Admiral Fletcher reported. "Susan's weapons have been tested and work. Our pilots have trained in simulators based on actual Valkyrian flight patterns from Olivia's intelligence." General Ray Garcia, head of the UEDF, looked around the room. "Then it's time for Operation Thunderbolt. Captain Mason," briefed Captain Martinez. "His ship will lead the attack." That night, Captain Greg Martinez walked through the hangar where his ship, the UES Vengeance, waited. It was smaller than Valkyrian ships, but packed with Earth's new technology. "Ready to make history?" his executive officer asked. Greg nodded. "The Valkyrians think we're just sitting here taking it. They have no idea what's coming." Across Earth, hidden preparations continued. Families said goodbye to soldiers who officially were just going to work at Empire facilities. Weapons were loaded onto ships disguised as resource transports. And in her quarters, Kate Mason looked at her brother's photo one last time before heading to the command center. "It's starting, Sam," she whispered. "They won't be laughing much longer." The UES Vengeance moved silently through space. Its new engines left no heat trail for Valkyrian sensors to detect. Captain Greg Martinez sat in the command chair, watching as Saturn grew larger on the main screen. "Titan coming into visual range," said the navigator. Greg nodded. "Maintain stealth approach. All hands to battle stations." Behind the Vengeance, 5 more Earth ships followed in tight formation. Each carried 100 soldiers, and the new weapons Susan Miller had created. This was humanity's first real attack against the Valkyrian Empire. "Any sign they've detected us?" Greg asked. "None, sir," replied the sensor officer. "Their communication channels show routine traffic only." Greg allowed himself a small smile. "They're not even looking for us. Prepare for attack pattern Alpha." Back on Earth, in the UEDF Command Center, Captain Kate Mason and Admiral Fletcher watched the mission progress through a secure feed. "If this works," Fletcher said quietly, "everything changes today." Kate nodded. "When this works," she corrected him. On Titan, in the orange haze of the moon's thick atmosphere, a Valkyrian outpost stood on the rocky surface. 30 Valkyrians ran the facility that monitored all traffic in the outer solar system. They had grown bored with their assignment. Humans were no threat. Other alien races knew better than to enter Valkyrian territory. Sub-Commander Drazix yawned as he watched the control screens. Another quiet day guarding against nothing. The first sign of trouble was when their communications suddenly went dead. "What happened?" Drazix demanded. "Unknown, sir," a technician answered. "Running diagnostics." Outside, human ships descended through Titan's atmosphere. The Vengeance landed first, near the outpost's main entrance. Troops in specially designed combat suits rushed out, carrying weapons that glowed with blue energy. The Valkyrians had just sounded their alarm when the main doors exploded inward. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Chen led the first squad into the Valkyrian outpost. 5 years ago, she had been a physics professor. Now she was a soldier, carrying a quantum disruptor that could shut down Valkyrian shield technology. "All units, deploy disruptors on my mark," she said into her helmet communicator. 3, 2, 1, mark. 20 soldiers activated the devices at once. A wave of energy spread through the outpost. Suddenly, the Valkyrians found their personal shields failing and their weapons losing power. "What is this?" Sub-Commander Drazix shouted as human troops stormed into the control room. For the first time, he felt fear when looking at humans. The battle for the Titan outpost lasted only 42 minutes. 3 humans were wounded. 28 Valkyrians surrendered. 2 fought to the death. Captain Martinez walked through the captured facility, checking each room. "The data center is secure, sir," reported Lieutenant Commander Chen. "We're downloading everything now." Greg nodded. "Send the signal to Earth. Titan is ours." In the UEDF Command Center, cheers erupted when the message came through. Admiral Fletcher raised his hands for quiet. "This is just the beginning," he reminded them. "The real Valkyrian response comes next." On the Valkyrian homeworld, the High Council received news of the Titan outpost's fall. At first, they didn't believe it. "Humans?" asked one council member. "They took a military outpost from Valkyrian troops. It must have been a malfunction or natural disaster," another suggested. "Humans don't have the technology or courage for such an attack." The Supreme Commander of Valkyrian forces studied the limited information they had. "We'll send a punitive fleet to Earth," he decided. "A small one will be more than enough to remind these humans of their place." The Council agreed, still not taking the threat seriously. Back on Titan, Earth forces secured their new position. Engineer teams studied Valkyrian technology up close, finding new weaknesses to exploit. Captain Martinez received a transmission from Earth. After reading it, he gathered his officers. "The Valkyrians are sending a fleet to punish Earth," he told them. "But Admiral Warren has a plan. They're walking into a trap." For the first time in 5 years, humans openly smiled when talking about the Valkyrians. The Empire had laughed at humanity. Soon, that laughter would stop. The Valkyrian punitive fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system 2 weeks after the Titan attack. It consisted of 12 warships, each one larger than anything humans had built. Commander Krezak led the fleet, confident this would be a simple mission. "These humans need to be reminded of their place," Krezak told his officers. "We will destroy a few of their cities, take more resources, and leave. The Empire has more important matters to attend to." The Valkyrian ships moved past Neptune, then Uranus, heading straight for Earth. They did not bother to scan the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Why would they? Humans had no presence there. That was their mistake. Admiral Nicole Warren watched from the bridge of the UES Defiance, hidden among the asteroids. 25 human ships waited with her, engines cold, weapons ready. All ships confirm ready status, her communications officer reported. Nicole nodded. The Valkyrians are following the exact course intelligence predicted. They never change their tactics. That will cost them today. The Valkyrian fleet passed Mars, still moving confidently toward Earth. Prepare Hellfire missiles, Nicole ordered. Target their lead ships. Launch on my command. The newly developed Hellfire missiles were based on Valkyrian technology, but modified by human engineers. They were designed to do one thing: penetrate Valkyrian armor. They're entering the kill zone, reported the tactical officer. Range optimal in 3, 2, 1. Launch missiles, Nicole commanded. From hidden positions throughout the asteroid belt, human ships fired hundreds of missiles simultaneously. The Valkyrians detected the launches too late. Incoming, shouted a Valkyrian sensor operator on Commander Krezak's flagship. Impossible, Krezak replied. Activate shields. These primitive weapons will. His words were cut short as the first missiles hit. They burned through Valkyrian shields like they weren't there, then melted through the hull armor. 3 Valkyrian ships exploded immediately. 4 more were damaged badly. What is happening? Krezak demanded as his ship shook from multiple impacts. Before his officers could answer, a new threat appeared. Major Frank Collins led 3 squadrons of human fighters from hidden bases on Mars moons. All fighters, attack pattern Delta. Frank ordered. Hit their engines and weapons. Stay mobile. The human fighters were smaller and faster than anything the Valkyrians had seen before. They darted between the larger ships, firing precisely at weak points identified from the Titan data. Krezak watched in horror as his carefully ordered formation fell apart. The human ships should not exist. The human weapons should not work. None of this should be possible. Their fighters are not following standard attack protocols, a Valkyrian officer reported. We cannot predict their movements. Destroy them, Krezak shouted. They are just humans. But the human ships moved too quickly. The Valkyrian targeting systems, designed to fight enemies who used predictable patterns, couldn't lock onto the erratic flight paths of Earth pilots. Meanwhile, Admiral Warren's larger ships emerged from hiding and engaged the remaining Valkyrian vessels. The UES Defiance fired its main cannon, cutting through a Valkyrian cruiser. Half their fleet is gone, Nicole's tactical officer reported. The rest are trying to regroup. After losing 6 ships and seeing 4 more badly damaged, Commander Krezak made a decision that no Valkyrian commander had made in centuries. Retreat, he ordered. Back to the outer system. Now, the surviving Valkyrian ships turned and fled, pursued by human fighters that continued to harass them until they jumped to faster-than-light speed beyond Neptune. On the Defiance, Admiral Warren watched them go. Send word to Earth, she said. The Valkyrian fleet has been defeated. We lost 3 ships and 12 fighters. The enemy lost more than half their force. News of the victory spread across Earth. People who had lived under Valkyrian rule for 5 years began to hope openly for the first time. In the Valkyrian Empire, the news was met with shock. The Supreme Commander called an emergency meeting of the High Council. We may have underestimated these humans, he admitted reluctantly. An older council member leaned forward. Perhaps it is time to take this threat seriously. 6 months after defeating the Valkyrian fleet, humanity was ready to take the next step. The UEDF had grown stronger. Earth ships now controlled the entire solar system. But to truly challenge the Valkyrian Empire, humans needed allies. Captain Eric Johnson stood on the bridge of the UES Diplomat, the first human ship to travel beyond the solar system. Dr. Wright's faster-than-light drive hummed quietly, pushing the ship through space at speeds humans had only dreamed of before. We're approaching the Tellarite system, reported the navigator. Their main world should appear on sensors soon. Eric nodded. Intelligence from captured Valkyrian databases showed the Tellarites had been under Valkyrian control for over 100 years. They were known for their advanced sensor technology and might be willing to help fight their oppressors. Remember, Eric told his crew, we're not here to force anyone to join us. We're offering an alliance of equals. The Tellarites were surprised when a ship of unknown design appeared near their homeworld. They were even more surprised when they learned it was human. Humans? Asked the Tellarite leader, Gorvin. His face, which looked somewhat like an earth bear with a snout, showed confusion. The Valkyrians said you were primitive servants, barely able to leave your own planet. Eric smiled. The Valkyrians were wrong about us, just as they've been wrong about your people and others. After seeing proof of human victories against Valkyrian forces, the Tellarites agreed to an alliance. They shared intelligence about other Valkyrian strongholds and their advanced sensor technology that could detect Valkyrian ships from much greater distances. Next, humanity reached out to the Novari, a species with natural abilities to heal quickly and survive in harsh environments. They had been used as frontline troops by the Valkyrians, but had secretly maintained their own culture and identity. Your timing is perfect, said Shala, a Novari resistance leader. We have been planning our own rebellion for years. Within 3 months, humanity had formed alliances with 7 different species, all former servants or victims of the Valkyrian Empire. Each brought unique strengths and knowledge. Back on Earth, Admiral Fletcher coordinated this growing alliance. The Valkyrians never expected their servants to work together, he told the UEDF leadership. That's their greatest weakness. They keep each species separate, playing them against each other. The Allied forces began striking Valkyrian supply lines and outposts across multiple star systems. Earth ships, now equipped with technology from their new allies, proved even more effective. Chief Scientist Heather Taylor worked with experts from 3 different species to develop countermeasures against Valkyrian biological weapons. The Valkyrians had used disease as a weapon for centuries to control rebellious populations. They won't be able to use that threat anymore, Heather told her team as they completed a universal vaccine that protected against all known Valkyrian bioweapons. Captain Kate Mason, now leading UEDF intelligence operations beyond the solar system, established a network of spies and informants throughout Valkyrian territory. Information flowed back to Earth, revealing more of the Empire's secrets and vulnerabilities. They're still underestimating us, Kate reported. They think these attacks are just random rebellions, not a coordinated effort. On a small moon orbiting a gas giant in the Proxima Centauri system, Admiral Warren established the first human forward base outside the solar system. From there, Allied ships could strike deeper into Valkyrian territory and return safely. Phase 1 is complete, Warren told her officers as they stood in the newly constructed base. We've secured our solar system and built our alliance. Phase 2 begins now, taking the fight directly to Valkyrian core worlds. The news of human ships appearing throughout their territory finally forced the Valkyrian High Council to act decisively. This has gone beyond a simple rebellion, the Supreme Commander told the Council. These humans have somehow united our servant races against us. We must crush them completely before others join them. The High Council approved the deployment of the Grand Armada, the main Valkyrian military force that had not been defeated in battle for over 1,000 years. What the Valkyrians didn't know was that humanity was counting on exactly this response. The Valkyrian Grand Armada gathered near their homeworld. 300 warships, the finest in the Empire, prepared to crush the human rebellion once and for all. Supreme Fleet Commander Vortex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, confident in his coming victory. These humans have been lucky, he told his officers. Luck ends when faced with the full might of the Empire. The plan was simple. The Grand Armada would travel directly to Earth, destroy all human military assets, and make an example of the planet that dared to challenge Valkyrian rule. What the Valkyrians didn't know was that humanity had expected this response and prepared for it. Admiral Fletcher called a meeting of all Allied commanders in the secure base on Proxima Centauri. Representatives from 8 species gathered to review the final details of Operation Firestorm. The Valkyrians are predictable, Fletcher explained. They always respond to threats the same way, with overwhelming force aimed at a single target. They'll send everything they have to Earth, leaving their core worlds vulnerable. Captain Kate Mason presented the intelligence she had gathered. Their fleet is assembling now. Once they begin moving, we'll have approximately 6 days before they reach Earth. And our forces are ready? Asked Gorvin, the Tellurite commander. Admiral Fletcher nodded. Everything is in position. Captain Mason will lead the diversionary fleet. Admiral Warren is standing by with our main strike force. The next day, the Valkyrian Grand Armada began its journey to Earth. As predicted, they traveled in a tight formation, following the most direct route through Valkyrian space. Captain Kate Mason, now commanding the UES Avenger and leading 30 Allied ships, launched her mission. Her fleet appeared near a major Valkyrian supply world and began attacking its orbital facilities. Send the signal, Kate ordered. Make sure they know humans are behind this attack. When news reached the Grand Armada, Commander Vortax faced a decision. Continue to Earth or divert to protect the supply world. The humans are trying to distract us, he concluded. We will not fall for such an obvious trick. Continue to Earth as planned. But then reports came in of another attack, this time on a Valkyrian shipyard, then another on a fuel processing station, and another on a weapons research facility. More human ships, Vortax demanded. How many do they have? What Vortax didn't understand was that these weren't just random attacks. They were part of Admiral Fletcher's carefully coordinated Operation Firestorm. As the Grand Armada continued toward Earth, the Novari attacked a Valkyrian communication hub. The Tellurites disabled a sensor network. The Krell, another allied species, freed slave workers from 3 mining worlds. Everywhere across the Empire, carefully selected targets fell in a precise sequence, each one weakening Valkyrian ability to respond effectively. Vortax was forced to split his fleet, sending ships to protect critical facilities. The once mighty Grand Armada grew smaller as it continued toward Earth. Meanwhile, Admiral Nicole Warren waited with the main Allied strike force near Proxima Centauri. Her fleet consisted of 90 ships from all Allied species, equipped with the best technology each could provide. When the remains of the Grand Armada entered the Proxima Centauri system, the last jump point before Sol, Warren sprung her trap. All ships, attack pattern Omega, she ordered. Target their command ships first. The battle was fierce but one-sided. The Valkyrians, already weakened and divided, faced ships that knew their every weakness and tactics that countered their every move. They're adapting to our maneuvers, a Valkyrian officer reported in panic. Every time we change formation, they're already countering it. Commander Vortax watched in disbelief as his fleet was systematically destroyed. The empire that had conquered 1,000 worlds was being defeated by species they had once laughed at. Retreat, he finally ordered. All ships, retreat and regroup. But only 37 Valkyrian ships managed to escape the battle. The Grand Armada, pride of the Empire for centuries, had been decimated. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Admiral Warren allowed herself a small smile. Send word to Earth and all our allies, she said. The Battle of Proxima Centauri is won. The path to Valkyrian core worlds is open. For the first time in a millennium, the Valkyrian Empire knew fear. 3 months after the Battle of Proxima Centauri, the combined fleet of Earth and its allies approached Valkar Prime, the homeworld of the Valkyrian Empire. 200 ships from 9 different species moved in perfect formation toward the heart of the empire that had oppressed them for centuries. Admiral John Harris, promoted from commander after years of distinguished service, stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, the newest and most powerful ship in the human fleet. Next to him was Captain Kate Mason, whose brother had died in the first Valkyrian attack on the lunar colony 7 years ago. "We've come a long way," John said quietly. Kate nodded. "Sam would be proud of what we've accomplished." On Valkyr Prime, panic spread among the ruling class. The defenses around their homeworld were strong but not designed to repel an attack of this scale. No enemy had ever reached this far into their territory. High Executor Zarbex, who had first contacted Earth and mocked humanity as primitives, now stood before the Valkyrian High Council. "How did this happen?" demanded the council leader. "How did servants defeat the Grand Armada?" "They are not what we thought," Zarbex admitted. "They learn and adapt faster than any species we've encountered, and they have united our enemies against us." As the Allied fleet entered the Valkyrian home system, they encountered the remaining defensive forces. The battle was fierce but brief. The Valkyrians fought bravely, but were overwhelmed by superior tactics and technology. Within hours, Earth ships were in orbit around Valkyr Prime. The Valkyrian capital city lay exposed below them. "Open a channel to their leadership," Admiral Harris ordered. On screens across the Valkyrian capital, John's face appeared. Many Valkyrians recognized him as the human who had first greeted them 7 years earlier. "This is Admiral John Harris of the United Earth Defense Force. Your military has been defeated. Your empire is falling. I am here to offer terms of surrender." The High Council received the message in their underground bunker. Some wanted to fight to the end. Others wished to negotiate. "We will never surrender to former servants," the council leader declared. "The Valkyrian Empire has ruled for 10,000 years. We will not be defeated by primitive species." They sent their response to Harris, a defiant refusal and a threat to destroy their own cities rather than let them fall to the Alliance. Admiral Harris received their message and sighed. "They still don't understand," he told Kate. "They think we're here for revenge, to do to them what they did to others." "Aren't we?" Kate asked. "After everything they've done." John shook his head. "That's not who we are. That's not why we fought." He turned to his communications officer. "Send the second message and deploy the landing craft." Across Valkyr Prime, millions of ordinary Valkyrians watched as human ships descended toward their cities. They expected destruction, fire raining from the sky, as the Valkyrians had done to so many worlds. Instead, the ships landed in open areas. Soldiers emerged, but they did not fire weapons. They carried supplies, medical equipment, and food. Admiral Harris's second message played on all frequencies. "People of Valkyr Prime, we are not here to destroy your world or enslave your people. The High Council and military leaders who started this war will face justice, but ordinary citizens have nothing to fear. For too long, your leaders have told you that other species must be conquered or destroyed. Today we prove them wrong." On the streets of the Valkyrian capital, something unexpected happened. The lower classes, who had suffered under their own leadership for generations, began to rise up. They had seen the truth, that the Alliance treated its members as equals, not servants. Within days, the High Council lost control. Valkyrian resistance fighters, hidden for centuries, emerged to help the Allied forces establish a new government. 1 week after the fleet arrived at Valkyr Prime, the Valkyrian Empire officially surrendered. The Galactic Council, a loose alliance of free worlds beyond Valkyrian space, recognized the new alliance led by Earth and its partners. As John Harris and Kate Mason stood on a balcony overlooking the Valkyrian capital, Kate thought about her brother and the long journey that had brought them here. "We didn't burn their worlds," she said. "We freed them." John nodded. "That's the difference they never understood. They conquered. We liberate." Across the galaxy, former Valkyrian worlds celebrated their freedom. A new era had begun, not of empire, but of alliance. And it all started because the Valkyrians made one fatal mistake. They laughed at humanity.